believe you wanted to kiss me.
I'll always want to kiss you. Hey, that picture you just took, it was kind of a private moment. You mind deleting it? Don't do that. Hey, come on, take it down.
Make me.
Hey, Dan, leave it. Let's...
Yeah, listen to your lady, Dan. Are you a tough guy? Oh. Hey, tell me, how'd a loser like him get a girl as fine as you?
The film begins in Buffalo, where Dan is the top car salesman at his dealership. He understands what motivates customers, which earns him the Salesman of the Month title once again. His coworker Hal makes a dramatic entrance, speeding into the lot as if he believes that both cars and women prefer things fast. The rest of the staff think he's a bit strange. Don leaves work early because it's his wedding anniversary. He loves his quiet suburban life with his wife Jessica and their 3 kids, Nina, Kyle, and little Max. Nina plans to follow her boyfriend to Iowa and even change her college major, giving up her dream of becoming a journalist. Her parents are disappointed. Kyle, meanwhile, struggles to connect with his father. After Dan forces him to quit gaming, saying that blowing people's heads off 24/7 isn't healthy, Kyle says he's going to his friend Samir's house instead. Don reminds him he was supposed to babysit Max for their anniversary. Argument breaks out between Nina and Kyle over who has to babysit. Dan steps in and assigns the job to Nina, suggesting it might be good for Kyle to spend time out of the house. Nina reluctantly agrees, suspecting Kyle isn't being honest about his plans. Kyle rides to Samir's house and secretly pays him $200 to rent space in the garage for his gaming setup. Unknown to his family, Kyle is actually a popular online streamer called Killboy, famous for his shooting game skills. Every year for their anniversary, Dan and Jessica go to a carnival. While waiting in line for a roller coaster, some teens watching Killboy's stream excitedly let them go ahead. Don enjoys their simple tradition, but Jessica wishes for more excitement in their life. She teases him about being predictable, even joking about their scheduled intimacy. After the roller coaster ride, Dan promises to be less routine while they share a kiss. A young man secretly takes their photo. Don asks him to delete it, but the guy mocks him, posts it online, and calls him a loser. Even spills a drink on Dan and insults Jessica for being with a wimp. Dan, who hates violence, walks away despite the humiliation. On the drive home, Jessica says she didn't want him to fight, but she secretly feels disappointed. At home, Dan changes Max's diaper with impressive skill and later jokes in bed that he should have fought the guy. Jessica laughs and reassures him, apologizing for making him feel bad. The next day, Jessica attends kickboxing to vent her frustration. There, she meets Gwen, a woman visiting Buffalo to see her ex. After accidentally punching Gwen in the face, they bond over smoothies. Jessica confesses she feels stuck in Buffalo and misses her old dreams of traveling the world. Gwen reveals she's a travel agent and gives Jessica her card before leaving for the airport. Meanwhile, Dan is shopping with Max when a suspicious man suddenly attacks him. Dan calmly asks to put his baby down first, then quickly and efficiently defeats the attacker, shocking bystanders. On the drive home, he handles the car with surprising skill, drawing curious looks from neighbors at home. Don opens a hidden compartment filled with guns, fake passports, and stacks of cash. Clearly alarmed, he calls an old associate named Augie to arrange new identities for his family. Dan reveals that his former boss, McAffrey, has been searching for him. He fears the carnival photo exposed his location. Dan offers $500,000 for new IDs and suggests meeting in Las Vegas in 3 days. Augie is shocked that Dan's family doesn't know he used to be a professional assassin and insists he tell them the truth. Dan hurriedly packs. He goes to Nana's school and interrupts a meeting to find her. Classmate admits Nina hasn't been editor of the school paper for 3 months, likely because of her boyfriend. Dan bribes the student to reveal Nana's location and finds her under the bleachers, expresses disappointment that she gave up journalism. She fires back that he doesn't even read her work. There's no time to argue, they must leave. They pick up Kyle from chess club, only to learn he quit that too. At Samir's house, Dan discovers Kyle has been secretly streaming. He tells his kids they're going to Las Vegas and orders them to act excited in front of Jessica War. He'll expose their lies at Jessica's workplace. Don convinces her to take the spontaneous Vegas trip she's always wanted. She's confused by his sudden boldness, but impressed and agrees. As they prepare to leave, Dan notices a black SUV outside and urges everyone to hurry. McAffrey's men are closing in. Dan skillfully evades them in traffic, making up excuses for his reckless driving. Realizing there's a tracker in his car, he rushes to his dealership, lifts the car with his family still inside, pretending to check the oil and removes the tracker just in time. He secretly attaches it to Hal's test drive vehicle, tricking the pursuers. With 33 hours to Vegas, Dan collects everyone's phones, declaring it a device-free trip. The kids protest, but he plans to dispose of the phones entirely. Without GPS, they rely on old maps. At a travel agency, Dan pays cash to book a Vegas hotel room. For the first time in a while, the family truly bonds, singing Ice Ice Baby. Together on the road, back at their house, McAffrey personally investigates. His tech expert discovers Kyle's identity as Killboy and orders all men to intercept the van during a stop. Nina criticizes Kyle's gaming career, echoing her boyfriend Trevor's opinions. Kyle says he misses the old Nina who had her own personality. A fan recognizes Kyle and asks for a photo. Meanwhile, Dan practices how to confess his assassin past to Jessica, but can't find the courage. When he sees Kyle's fan taking selfies, he panics about the photos going online and tells the family the hotel is fully booked, they have to keep driving. McAffrey hires a motorcycle gang to chase them. On a bridge at night, Don notices 3 bikers following, while his family unknowingly listens to calming music through headphones. Dan prepares a silenced gun. He expertly fends off the bikers while they bob their heads to music, unaware. Only baby Max is awake, happily handing his father his milk bottle, which Dan uses as a distraction. He knocks the final biker off the road. After driving all night, they stop near the college Nina wants to attend. She insists on visiting. Jessica doesn't want to see Trevor, but eventually they tour the campus. It's beautiful and lively. Don advises Jessica that if they want Nina to listen, they should start by listening to her. Jessica ends up reliving her college days, even doing a keg stand to impress everyone, including Nina. The moment brings mother and daughter closer. Nina mainly wanted to see Trevor. Kyle tells her the family doesn't like him because she's changed since dating him, and he doesn't treat her the way she deserves. During the campus tour, Jessica admits she likes Dan's recent spontaneity. Dan spots a suspicious German man and assumes he works for McAffrey. Starts speaking German to him, confusing Jessica only to realize the man is innocent. Suddenly, another attacker ambushes Dan. They fight inside a chemistry lab while the family tours nearby. Dan quickly defeats the attacker and rejoins his family as if nothing happened. But Nina has slipped away to see Trevor. Nina finds Trevor with another girl and confronts him. When she accuses him of cheating, Trevor coldly responds that monogamy is just a social construct and claims he thought they agreed on that. Heartbroken, Nina leaves in tears. Back at the van, Dan tries to comfort her with a typical fatherly speech, but quickly realizes she doesn't need a lecture. Instead, he teaches her a simple martial arts pressure point move that causes intense pain without lasting harm. Curious how he knows it, she jokes that maybe he's more mysterious than she thought. Feeling empowered, Nina uses the move on Trevor, snaps a photo of him doubled over in pain, and walks away with her confidence restored. She returns to the van feeling closer to her dad than ever. As they continue driving, the family grows closer. Nina thanks Dan for always supporting her and considers reclaiming her editor position at school. Dan tells her how proud he is of her writing, even mentioning a powerful article she wrote about corruption in the Board of Education. Surprised, he actually read it. He assures her he's her biggest fan. They stop at a small motel, where Dan and Jessica finally relax together. Jessica is drawn to Dan's spontaneous behavior and wonders if he used to be this way before they met. Dan admits he changed because he didn't like the man he used to be. The next morning, Dan calls Augie, who is bringing their new identities. Augie is shocked that Dan still hasn't told his family they may need to change their names and leave the country, trying to gather courage. Dan ends up talking with Kyle instead. Kyle opens up about being a streamer, explaining that gaming requires skill, intelligence, and quick reflexes. He challenges Dan to a laser tag match. If Kyle wins, he can return to gaming. If Dan wins, Kyle will play baseball for 6 months. They agree to first to 3 hits. Dan quickly scores 2 points, but Kyle studies his tactics and evens the score. In the end, Dan wins, though Kyle suspects he bent the rules. Still, the competition brings them closer. Finally, they arrive in Las Vegas and check into a luxurious suite. Don meets Augie downstairs and receives new passports and one-way tickets to Vancouver. He plans to tell Jessica the truth over a romantic dinner. Before leaving, he warns the kids not to open the door for anyone. The McAffrey's men already know they're there, Kyle suggests visiting the HyperX gaming arena. Nina isn't thrilled, but agrees. At the arena, Kyle meets a well-known gamer named Ran, who invites him to join a team for the Counter-Strike finals. When the rest of the team is eliminated, Kyle carries them to victory on his own, impressing everyone. Meanwhile, Don tries to confess his past to Jessica during dinner, but keeps getting interrupted. He even scolds the waiter in French accidentally. Revealing he knows multiple languages, Jessica is amazed. Lacking the courage to confess in English, Dan begins explaining his past in French instead. Jessica doesn't understand but finds it charming and romantic, so he postpones the truth yet again. When they return to the suite, Dan senses something is wrong. Jessica prepares a romantic atmosphere with scented mist, which accidentally reveals red laser sights aimed at them. Don reacts instantly, dodging bullets and using a tequila bottle to create an explosion that disables the attackers. However, Jessica is taken hostage. One attacker calls Dan by his real name, Sean, exposing his secret. The man threatens their children. Don manages to eliminate him, but Jessica is shaken and physically sick from the shock. She rushes to check on the kids but finds pillows arranged to look like sleeping bodies. Remembering the mention of HyperX, she realizes where they are at. The arena, just after Kyle finishes a 30-kill victory, Dan and Jessica arrive and rush them out. Dan finally tells the truth. Before meeting Jessica, he was a covert assassin working for McAffrey. The kids don't believe him until gunfire erupts. Dan takes down another mercenary in front of them. Now Kyle is the one who feels sick. In hiding, Dan admits he was responsible for 43 deaths. Kyle calls him a hypocrite for banning video games while living a life of real violence. The family now understands why Dan avoided social media and never wanted attention. He gives them their new identities. Nina becomes Molly Anderson. Kyle complains about his own new name. After 18 years of lies, the family feels betrayed. Jessica decides to leave with the kids and calls Gwen for help. Gwen arrives in a private jet. On board, she tells Jessica about her ex in Buffalo and how she got close to his new wife to trap her. Jessica slowly realizes Gwen has been manipulating her. Before she can escape, McAffrey appears. McAffrey calls Dan and shows him that his family is captive. He arranges a meeting at an abandoned hotel. When Dan arrives, McAffrey greets him warmly. It turns out he is Dan's father. He explains he wanted Dan dead for abandoning him, but is now impressed by how skilled he's been. McAffrey offers a deal. Return to work for him and the family lives, but Dan can never see them again. If he refuses, they die. With no choice, Dan agrees. As McAffrey's men escort the family away, the kids convince Jessica they can't abandon Dan. Jessica attacks one guard in a clever move and frees the others. They decide to rescue him. Inside, Gwen attempts to manipulate Dan emotionally, but he sees through it. The family storms in and frees him. Dan apologizes to Jessica for hiding the truth and promises honesty moving forward. Kyle uses a drone to guide Dan through the building as mercenaries swarm in. Dan fights them off one by one. McAffrey eventually joins the fight, proud of his son's abilities. Jessica battles Gwen in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Though overpowered at first, Jessica refuses to give up. Using quick thinking and athletic skill, she finally defeats Gwen. McAffrey gains the upper hand against Dan and prepares to kill him. Nina distracts him by appealing to the idea of family, pretending to reach his heart. The distraction gives Don just enough time to strike back. Police sirens approach. The family reunites as McAffrey's operation collapses. 6 months later, Nina becomes a rising journalist after exposing McAffrey's organization. Dan starts a security training company and hires Augie. Jessica becomes a coach, rediscovering her strength. Kyle continues streaming, now supported by his family. As they prepare for another big road trip, this time taking Nina to Stanford, they follow a new tradition, leaving their phones behind and focusing on each other. And that's a wrap on today's recap. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a plot twist. Got a movie you want recapped? Drop it in the comments below. This is DX Recap Shorts. See you in the next one.